Welcome to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. I'm Jill, and today we are making a 3-layer hummingbird cake.
It's the all-free whole food plant-based cooking show.
Okay guys, so hummingbird cake. I don't know if any of you out there have heard of hummingbird cake, but I've been fascinated with it from years ago. I read this book from one of my favorite authors, Girl Who Chased the Moon, Sarah Addison Allen. I love her book series. She has many different books. I'm not usually a huge fiction fan, but I absolutely love the way she writes. And the girl in this book owns kind of a bakery, and she makes these hummingbird cakes. And I'd never heard of that before, and I've wanted to try it ever since then. And that was probably 10 years ago. But they're not vegan. So today, we are gonna make a plant-based, better than vegan even, plant-based. So it's all whole food, everything in here, all of the ingredients are really good for you. There's 0 refined sugars, 0 oil, and it's also gluten-free. So, you are gonna love this cake. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna get our flax eggs soaking first because they need to gel. So, it's 2 teaspoons, or is it 3? Sorry. Consult my, it's 3, I'm sorry, 3 tablespoons of flax eggs. So I already have here 6 tablespoons of water. So we're gonna put 3 tablespoons of flax meal in there, not flax seeds, flax meal. We're gonna stir it around a little bit. And as this sits, it's really watery now, but as it sits, it's gonna gel up and it's gonna be like an egg. That's our egg replacer. Set that aside. Next, we're gonna make our flour. So this is oat flour, or it's rolled oats that we're gonna make into flour. So this is 3½ cups of oat flour, or rolled oats that we're gonna make into flour, which comes out to about 3 cups of oat flour. And I don't buy oat flour because I always have oats on hand, and it's just a couple seconds to blitz them up and you have oat flour. So no reason to buy expensive oat flour if you have oats. So we're just gonna blitz those up until it's a flour. Okay, and I don't like to grind mine super fine because I kind of like to keep some of that bulk left in the oats. So we're just gonna put that in our bowl. And then what I have here is 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, and then like a ½ teaspoon of salt. We don't normally use salt, but in baking, salt plays an important role. That's what helps it rise. That reaction between the baking soda and the salt, or the baking powder, but we're using baking soda. Okay, now we're just gonna lightly whisk it up just to mix those ingredients together a little bit. And then we're gonna set it aside. So now to the ingredients that flavor this cake. So the hummingbird cake, the flavor comes from bananas and pineapple. It is so delicious, you're just not gonna believe it. So I have 4 bananas here, and they're very ripe. You want them very ripe because that's where all that natural sweetness comes from. And I'm just using a potato masher. You want to mash it up. You don't want to blend it. If you blend it in your blender, something happens. And then when you add that to your cake and after it's baking, the cake just seems to be really dense and chewy. So when you just mash it up like this, it keeps the cake a little bit, I don't know, a little bit fluffier. Even though this is a really dense cake, it's just not chewy. So we're just gonna mash it up a little bit. So the 4 bananas come out to about 2 cups. Okay, that looks pretty good. Set that aside. Then we're gonna mix in our pineapple chunks. And this is 1 cup of crushed pineapple. I didn't have any crushed pineapple. You know, the stuff that comes in a can. I just had frozen pineapple, and I just got out a cup worth and I just chopped it up real fine. Because you want to have a little bit of those chunks in there, because when you eat that cake, you'll know why. You get those little sweet chunks of pineapple. So good. Okay, set that aside. Now for the liquid ingredients. We have 2 cups of dates. So there is your whole food sweetener. No refined sugar, the whole date. And I had about half medjool dates, half deglette dates, but it's 2 cups of dates. We have 2 cups of almond milk, and I use unsweetened almond milk for the same reason, because I don't like having any of that refined sugar in there. And then 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay. Now we're just going to blend that up until there aren't any chunks of date left. Which takes, you know, about a minute in the blender. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share with you some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is a crowd-funded show, which means our content is made possible by the generous patronage of our paid membership community, who share our common goal to teach the world how to easily and permanently switch to a plant-based diet. My husband and I create these free weekly cooking shows to share all of the delicious recipes that we use every day in our own family kitchen. Our recipes are now used by hundreds of thousands of viewers every month from all over the world. Our paid memberships offer additional perks like access to our ebooks and in-depth courses, including our 28 Days Plant-Based Made Easy course, where we offer a step-by-step guide to making the switch to a fully plant-based diet. With meal plans, shopping guides, daily learning materials, and over 65 of our favorite recipes. If you love our content and find it's helping you to live your best plant-based life, please join us on our mission to share this life-changing message with the world and become a supporting member today by following the link in the description. It is the continued growth of our supporting member community that makes this show possible. Okay, let's get back to the show. Okay. So there we go. If you can see that, it's just nice and creamy. Now, we are going to mix the wet ingredients first. So after getting the cakes in the oven, I realized there was still 1 ingredient left on my counter, the flax eggs. So I had to take them back out and put them in, mix them into the cake. But this is where the flax eggs would go in. Get all of that goodness out of there. Okay, just gonna mix that together. Actually, I'm not gonna whisk that. Got my spoon here. So you're just lightly going to mix that. You don't want to over mix, because that'll add to that chewiness of the cake too. So we're just gonna lightly stir it up here until all of the oat flour is incorporated. Okay, and then we have our other magic ingredient that makes it taste so delicious. Now, most hummingbird cakes call for pecans, roasted pecans. I didn't have any, and they just happen to be really expensive right now, but I did have walnuts. So these are just toasted. I had my oven on 350, and I just put them on a cookie sheet and toasted them for about 5 minutes. You need to watch them really carefully because they do burn easily. So that's going in second. We're gonna fold in the banana and pineapple mixture. Just lightly. And then we're gonna do the same with the walnuts. Okay, I'm gonna pour those in. This is 2 cups of toasted walnuts right here. So I'm gonna put in 1.5 cups because you're gonna leave about half of a cup for the end when you're frosting it. That's what you're gonna decorate it with. So we're just gonna leave some in the bottom. There we go. Lightly fold that in. Okay. And now I'm gonna get my pans. So I already have my oven preheated to 350. And then I have 3 9-inch cake pans. And I just cut pieces of parchment paper and put them on the bottom. You don't really have to put them around the sides of the pan. You can if you want, or you can just very lightly oil that. But I like using the parchment paper because it comes off really easy. And then you don't have to wash those pans so much. No scrubbing, nothing. Okay. So this is where you're just gonna have to eyeball it. You're gonna have to divide this equally between 3 pans. So you're just gonna have to kind of put a glob in, then move to the next guy. Move to the next one. Looks like this guy needs a little more. Just a little bit more. And then this guy gets the rest. Get all of that goodness out of there. Okay. Now you're just going to smooth it around, just like you would any other cake. Just make that nice smooth top to it. Now these don't get super high or fluffy, so it's not going to be a really tall cake. Because when you're making whole food cakes and baking with whole ingredients, it takes a lot to get that stuff to rise because it's very dense and very heavy. But that's okay with this cake. You'll see when you taste it. Okay. Okay, now into the oven they go. Okay, so now we are on to the frosting. And this is delicious. This is like a traditional cream cheese frosting, but we're making it with cashews. So this is 2 cups of cashews that I've already soaked for between 2 and 3 hours, and then I poured off of the water. So we're just gonna throw those in the blender. And then it's the juice of 1 small lemon. And that's gonna give it that tartness that you usually get in a cream cheese frosting. Okay, just set that aside. And then I have, this is 8 deglette dates, but if you have medjool dates, it's 4 dates. So essentially it's about a half of a cup. And that's that whole food sweetener. Then we're gonna do a teaspoon of vanilla. Oops. And then we're just going to do a teeny little sprinkle of salt. That is completely optional, but it does add just a little something. Just a teeny little sprinkle. Okay, and then what I have here is just some water. I have a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of water. So we're going to start with a half a cup. And as we go, we might have to use the 2 tablespoons, but that, you know, is all depending on your blender and how saturated the cashews are, so we just leave that aside for now. And now we're just gonna blend this until it's really smooth and creamy. And it does take a little bit of work. You have to blend it, scrape it down, blend it, scrape it down, and it really does. It's worth it in the end if you just put in that little extra time to get it really, really creamy. Okay, you see that? Smooth and creamy. All right, I'm gonna clear this out, bring my cakes over, and then we get to frost the cake. Okay, here are our cakes. They're just flipped over. I loosened them out of the pan, peeled the parchment off, and flipped them over to let them cool completely. But now we're gonna take them out. And I always like to put the first one with the rough side down so that I have a nice flat area to put the frosting on. Okay, I'm just gonna put a little bit of frosting there. And you'll just have to gauge how much frosting is here. So you probably just put, I don't know, maybe a half cup of frosting in that first layer, because you don't want to end up running out so that you don't have enough to frost the outside. So okay. So there's that first layer. Flop that one out. I'll put the flat side down. It doesn't really matter which side you put down, but okay. Another glob. But you want to leave a good amount left in here so that you can cover the whole thing. So I'm going to finish frosting this, and then I'll meet you at the table. Okay, now we get to try this beautiful cake. And what I forgot to tell you is just use those nuts that we set aside from before, sprinkle them on top, just like magic. All right. Now it's always getting that first piece out. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but it looks great. Okay, let's see. Oh, come on. Oh, I don't think I got all the way to the middle. Okay, there we go. Oh my gosh. Look at that! That is beautiful. Love it. Love it. But it needs to taste great too, right? Oh my gosh, I love it. You can taste the pineapple, you taste banana, the tart and sweetness of the frosting, and then the roasted nuts on top of it. This is gonna blow your mind. Look at this. I can't wait till you try this. So be sure to give this a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Oh my gosh.